People across the East Coast have been shoveling themselves out all day after being blanketed with snow. Here in New York City, air travel came to a complete standstill as all three major airports grounded flights. In Atlanta, it was the first time in over 100+ years that residents had a white Christmas. But despite the frigid temperatures and record snowfall this season, global warming true believers are still trying to spin the weather. This Saturday, the New York Times published an op-ed titled, quote, "Bundle up, it's global warming." The article reads, quote, "The Earth continues to get warmer, yet it's feeling a lot colder outside. The not-so-obvious short answer is that the overall warming in the atmosphere is actually creating cold weather extremes." The op-ed goes on to try to explain that snow patterns in Siberia explain this. The author writes, "As global temperatures have warmed and as Arctic sea ice has melted over the past 2.5 decades, more moisture has become available to fall as snow over the continents." Get that? Here's how it works. If it's warmer outside, that's because of global warming. If it's colder outside, global warming, still the culprit. Joining me now to explain, the author of Red Hot Lies, Christopher Horner, and the host of The Green Front on the Progressive Radio Network, Betsy Rosenberg. Welcome both. Now, Betsy, you guys don't know what is really happening with the weather. Just admit it. You're making up all of this as you go along, the global warming true believers. Probably just time to concede that, don't you think?
Global warmers, no. I would say it's climate scientists. 97-point-something% of climate scientists are absolutely convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that not only are we in climate change already and feeling it everywhere that you just mentioned, but humans are causing it. And I don't know why that's so hard to believe or accept. Now, climate scientists and climate hawks.
Because the story keeps changing. That's why. Because the story originally, 10 years ago, the idea was the climate is getting warmer. That's how you know we have global warming. And if you deny that, you're basically a Holocaust denier. And now that it's colder than average, that's still global warming. So what weather phenomenon would prove that global warming isn't real? Is there any weather phenomenon that doesn't prove global warming, do you think?
Global warming is really not being used by climate scientists and climate hawks now, as we're calling ourselves, because it's really climate chaos, climate instability, climate extremes, so that you're seeing drier weather and fires, epic fires in Russia this summer, biblical floods in Pakistan, and more snow being dumped where it's usually snowy. And that's what we're expecting to see, given the pattern that's been predicted. That's exactly what scientists have been saying is going to happen, and it's here.
Okay,
Believe it or not,
now,
it's
Chris,
here.
I was interested to hear Betsy use the term biblical, because this is, of course, a religion and one with particularly fervent believers. Do you believe that there's any truth to the idea that global warming is causing more snow?
Well, the idea that cooling now means warming shows that the science is far from settled. I'd suggest it's somewhat in flux. This is not what they would predict. The reason they failed to predict it is because they were too busy saying that winter was a thing of the past. But now what we're seeing, Tucker, is the say anything phase that every doomsday cult encounters when the spaceship fails to come as promised. The leaders rush inside, recalculate their figures, come outside saying, I forgot to carry the one, and it turns out, don't worry, have no fears, we're right on track for Armageddon. And that's what you're seeing here. There's actually a book written in 1956 that predicted this called When Prophecies Fail, following a different doomsday cult involving the planet Clarion. But anyway, this Leon Festinger coined a term that applies here, cognitive dissonance, the psychological machinations that you go through trying to process when the opposite of what you've been insisting is going to happen happens. And we've been seeing this now as severe winters disprove the claims that winters were a thing of the past. What we would believe from these claims is that if we were having a mild, snowless, or even warm winter, these same people would take to the pages of the New York Times to insist that warm winter is proof or undermines the global warming theory. I suggest that's different than what we've been hearing for more than a decade.
Speaking of spaceships, we just want to acknowledge that your mic does sound a little bit like you were on a spaceship. I want to remind our viewers that you are here, I think, in our country. I'm sorry about that. But Betsy, though, is there, back to the point that Chris raised, which I think is a good one, what weather pattern would bring doubts to you that global warming or climate chaos or whatever name you're now using is real? I mean, is there anything that could happen with the weather that would cause you to think, well, maybe we've got our predictions wrong a little bit?
Yeah, if it stayed exactly the same as it has for centuries, but it's not. It's doing anything but that. And I have a question, very simply.
Well, wait a second, wait,
hold
on. I cannot let that's a false claim, and I can't let it pass.
Excuse me, I was trying to answer your question. Excuse me, I was trying to answer your question. When you get a fever, are you just hot, or do you have the chills, hot and cold? We have, that's our personal thermostat is off when we have the flu or a fever. Our planetary thermostat is off, and we're causing it. And why do you have so much cognitive dissonance that you can't believe 97%
because Betsy,
of
you just threw something out there, with all respect, that just simply isn't true.
What's the planet's normal
climate,
temperature?
as we know, has
Don't
vacillated.
Believe climate scientists. Believe James Hansen
and
of
they
NASA.
will tell you that there was an ice age, there was a little ice age. I mean, the climate has fluctuated through the centuries. You will acknowledge that, correct?
Absolutely not. Not like this. We've never seen a spike like this in extreme weather, and we're going to see more extreme climate. And if we don't address, what's the harm in addressing it? Why not err on the side of caution? Worst comes to worst, we don't succumb to China and India and Germany beating us and investing and developing clean technology. Do we want to be buying everything from China, not just clothing and consumer goods, but clean tech? Why not show American innovation and invest in
So I get it, Chris. So
even if
it's not true, it doesn't matter. Now that's an argument. I like that argument. Chris, we only got about 30 seconds. Have you heard that before? I like it.
Okay, look. Climate suddenly changes for the first time ever. That's the only constant in climate. Here's the bottom line. The temperature after the Kyoto Protocol, perfectly implemented, would be precisely what it would have been without the Kyoto Protocol. So addressing it would kill millions. You can't create a risk-free world, but you can kill millions trying. Even if we accept your theory, despite the obvious observed empirical evidence, nothing ever proposed would detectably impact it. So wealthier is healthier. You don't want a poorer world to face what we will always face, which is climate change, and it's not outside
we cannot afford
of historical
to not
norms.
Address climate change. The rest of the world
nothing you've ever proposed would detectably impact the climate. No, the rest of the world rejects this, and that's on the record.
Betsy, if you would make it warmer in New York, some of us would be grateful for that. But in the meantime, thanks a lot.
Russia believes it. Look what they just went through. China believes it. Look what they're investing in. Ask anyone in Europe. They're under snow they've never seen before. Airports are closed.
Good luck with your religion. I hope the spaceship lands. Thanks so much. Don't go anywhere. The Great American Panel.